السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. قال الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. قال الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله أقول قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. ثم أما بعد فإن خير أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي وهدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة وكشف الغمة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين. ثم أما بعد, we start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with some blessings and salutations to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his family and his companions and all of his followers until the end of time. Inshallah, today I want to take a little moment to remind myself and all the brothers and sisters, especially our sisters here today, because today's khutbah is on specifically for the sisters, and it's also for ours adults, youngs, married and unmarried, for everyone, which is the rights of wife in Islam. What is the rights of wife in Islam? We all should know these things. Those who are married, we should know that. We already should know that. But some of us don't know. Some of us need reminders. Those who are not married, they should know before they get married. What's the wife's rights upon their husbands? So it's a reminder for all of us. For some of us, it's a must know. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَإِلَيْهِ أُنِيبُ. Islam has a prescription of rights. Everyone has rights over everyone. I have rights over you, and you have rights over me as a brother. I have rights over my brother has rights over me. I have rights over my father has rights over me. Right? Everyone has certain rights over the other person. Same thing, the husband has some rights over his wife, the wife has some rights over her husband. So inshallah, today we're going to talk about specifically the rights of wife upon her, over her husbands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet Muhammad mentioned in hadith, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has some rights over his slaves, and his slaves has some right over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, doesn't it sound something like Allah has rights over us and we have rights over Allah? Yes, we do. Prophet Muhammad mentioned in hadith, he said, O Muaz, do you know the rights of Allah over his slaves and the rights of slaves over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Muaz said, Ya Rasulullah, you know better than me. And then Prophet Muhammad said, Allah's rights over his slaves is that they worship him and associate nothing with him, and the right of the slaves over Allah is that he who does not associate anything with him will not be punished. So that's Allah's right over us, that we worship Allah and not associating partner with him. And if we do that, our rights over Allah is that he will not punish us. See, it's a give and take. So same way, if we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will not punish us. Same way, the wife has some rights over her husband. In exchange of, she has to give something to her husband, which is obedience, which is respect, which is love. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, in so many ayat, that He prescribed us how to respect our wives, how to give rights to our wives. Same, the vice versa. The husband has some rights over her wife too. But inshallah, in next khutbah or next week, we'll talk about that inshallah. The wife has some financial rights and some non-financial rights over her husband. Some rights connected to finance, some rights connected to non-finance. What are those? The financial rights are like, mahar. When you're getting married, you have to give mahar to your wife. And you have to accommodate her. You have to give her foods, clothing, all these things, which is connected to finance, right? And there are some non-finance, which is you have to respect her, you have to love her, you have to give proper rights if you have multiple wives, which most of us don't have. But if you do have, you have to give proper rights to both of them, or all of them. The first one, the financial rights to the wife, which is the mahar. One of them is the mahar. This is the money to which the wife is entitled from her husband when the marriage contract is completed or when the marriage is consummated. It is the right which a man is obliged to pay to the woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran in Surah An-Nisa, He said, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً فَإِن تِبْنَ لَكُمْ عَنْ شَيْءٍ مِنْهُ نَفْسًا فَكُلُوهُ هَنِيئًا مَرِيئًا. আর সন্তুষ্ট চিত্তে তোমরা নারীদেরকে তাদের দেয়া মোহর প্রদান করো, আর যদি তারা স্বেচ্ছায় কিয়দাংশ প্রদান করে তাহলে সঠিক বিবেচনার সাথে তা ভোগ করো। Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning in this ayah that to give to the woman whom you marry the mahar, obligatory bridal money given by the husband to his wife at the time of marriage, with a good heart. And if they give something to you on their own will, then you can have it. Which means we have to give our wives mahar when you're getting married. And there is no cut short. There is no specific minimum number or maximum number in Islam, which in some madahib has minimum numbers, which is not correct. There is no hadith which mention that there is any minimum number for marriage, 10 dirham or 10,000. There is nothing minimum. The meher depends on the husband's ability, and husband's ability to pay right away. If husband can pay more, could be a million, billion, Allahu Akbar. If he has the ability, he has to pay more. If he has less ability, he has to pay less. So there is no minimum number or maximum number. There is no Fatimi meher, which we have in our culture. There is nothing like that. Prophet Muhammad, he never paid less meher for his wives. Rather, he paid a large, big amount of meher. So this is the respect towards your wife. This is her rights over you. That's not mandatory for marriage. You don't have to mention this in the marriage contract. But giving meher is the obligatory part. Giving on the spot before marriage happened is sunnah. And all the Sahabas, except one or two conditions which they didn't have, all the Sahabas did pay the meher on spot. তো আমাদেরকে মোহর প্রদান করতে হবে বিবাহের আনুষ্ঠানিকতা সম্পন্ন হওয়ার পূর্বেই। তা আমরা যেটা করি না, আমাদের সমাজে যেটা হয় যে আপনি মোহর বাকি থাকবে, জনম বাকি, আজীবন বাকি। মৃত্যুর পরে যখন ওয়াইফকে জিজ্ঞেস করা তুমি মেহের মাফ করবে, তো ওয়াইফ মাফ করবে না। সে যদি মাফ না করে তাকে তো মানুষজন খারাপ বলবে যে জামাই মারা গেছে, হাজবেন্ড মারা গেছে, এখন ওয়াইফ মেহের মাফ করতেছে না। So this is a jahalat in our society. Rather, মোহর উচিত ছিল যে বিবাহের সময় অ্যাডভান্স পে করে দেয়া, বিবাহের আগে পে করে দেয়া। বাট আমরা করি না। আবার মেহের হতে পয়সা হতে পারে কোনো কথা না। It could be a land, it could be a property. If there is nothing, it could be some verses of the Quran, some surahs of the Quran that I'm going to teach to you. Like Sahabi erokom hoyse, one Sahaba, he didn't have anything. Rasulullah said, do you know some part of the Quran? He said, yes, I do, Ya Rasulullah. And he said, okay, you teach her, that is your meher. You teach her that part of the Quran. So anything can be meher. তো মেহের যেটা হবে, মোহর যেটা হবে, আমরা আরবিতে হচ্ছে মেহের, বাংলায় বলি মহারানা বা উর্দুতে হচ্ছে মহারানা। তো ওইটা আমাদেরকে বিয়ের সময় পে করতে হবে। এটা হচ্ছে ওয়াইফের ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল রাইটস। So there is no specific number. To get it clear, there is no specific number. It depends on the husband's situation, husband's ability. Now we don't have to oppress the husband by giving a huge number. Now I know some brothers are getting married for $50,000. He doesn't have a $500 job. How is he going to pay $50,000? Now this is illogical. This is not practical, but people are doing it. So it has to be by husband's ability. So that's wife's rights over husband, that he has to pay mahar to her wife. And number 2, with the spending, the husband has to spend for his wife. That's wife's rights over her husband. স্বামীকে ওয়াইফের জন্য ব্যয় করতে হবে। Now if she has jobs, she doesn't have to pay nothing for you. If she wants to pay something upon her own will, that's up to her. ধরেন একজন ওয়াইফ কাজ করে, সে অনেক ভালো বেতন ইনকাম তার, she has good income, but she's not obliged to pay for the family. She is not obliged. Whatever she income, that's her money. You cannot force her to give you some money to run the family. It's your responsibility. Husband's responsibility. স্বামীর দায়িত্ব হচ্ছে ওয়াইফকে দেখাশোনা করা, ফ্যামিলি পরিচালনা করা। ওয়াইফের যত পয়সা থাকুক, it's her money. But if she decides to help you out, that's up to her. You can't force her. This is her money. But for you, it's obligatory upon you to run the family. It's obligatory upon you to help her financially. The scholars of Islam are agreed that it is obligatory for husbands to spend on their wives. If she refuses him or rebels, then she is not entitled to that spending. Now that's the condition. The husbands will spend for his wife, but in return, she has to be obedient to him. She has to listen to him. She cannot go outside without the permission of husband. She cannot travel without her husband's permission. She has to respect the marriage contract. That's the condition. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, but the father of the child shall bear the cost of the mother's food and clothing on a reasonable basis. Now here's the key word, the reasonable basis. The husband, he is not a rich guy, and you expect him to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for you. That's not reasonable. He will pay, he will run the family according to his ability. It should not be the least amount, but it should not exceed the very high expectation. Now, if he has enough money, he can spend for you more money. If he has not more money, if he doesn't have much money, then you should not expect for him to pay high. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, it's a reasonable basis. It should be a reasonable basis according to husband's ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, لِيُنْفِقُوا ذُو سَاعَةٍ مِّن سَاعَتِهِ وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقُهُ فَلْيُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا آتاه الله. There is a car whose window is open and you have valuable stuff inside. KYV7317. KYV7317. Your window is open and you have some phones or some valuable stuff inside. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Talaq, verse number 7, He said, "Let the rich man spend according to his means, and the man whose resources are restricted, let him spend according to what Allah has given him." See this, in this ayah, Allah is mentioning clearly that husband will spend according to his means. Like if he has $100, he can't pay $1,000 for you. Now if his whole week income is $500 and you want him to pay $600 for your makeup, that's not reasonable, and that's against the Quran. What Allah is saying, বিত্তবান ব্যক্তি নিজ সামর্থ্য অনুযায়ী ব্যয় করবে, যার পয়সা আছে সে তার সামর্থ্য অনুযায়ী ব্যয় করবে, এবং যার জীবন উপকরণ সীমিত সে আল্লাহ তাকে যা তাকে দান করেছেন তা থেকে সে ব্যয় করবে। আমার ইনকাম হচ্ছে $700 সপ্তাহে, I can't pay $600 for your makeup only. You want to make up for Mac, you want to make up for this, you want to make up for that. It's not going to happen. That's against the Quran. That's against Allah's law. So হাজবেন্ড ব্যয় করবে তার সামর্থ্য অনুযায়ী। আর আল্লাহ সুবহানাহু ওয়া তাআলা কি বলছেন, আল্লাহ কারোর উপর গুরুতর বোঝা তিনি চাপিয়ে দেন না, সাধ্য অতীত বোঝা আল্লাহ কারোর উপর চাপিয়ে দেন না। So he has to pay according to his ability. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Hind bint Utbah bin Rabi'ah, who was the enemy of Islam, but after the victory of Makkah they became Muslim, and the Hind, she became Muslim, and she was, alhamdulillah, was a Muslimah. The wife of Abu Sufyan, who had complained that he did not spend on her. Take what is sufficient for you. And the Prophet advised her, take what is sufficient for you and your children on a reasonable basis. So that means if husband is a stingy man, he doesn't pay for your accommodation or for you, then you can take from his money, but on a reasonable basis. You can't just go and grab everything, whatever he have. No. Do you understand what I'm saying? যদি হাজবেন্ড, যদি স্বামী যদি স্ত্রীকে তার প্রাপ্য যেটা তার দরকার ওটা না দেয়, প্রয়োজনীয় জিনিস না দেয়, হাজবেন্ড, ওয়াইফ, she can take from husband without telling him, but on a reasonable basis. ধরেন হাজবেন্ড, ওয়াইফের দরকার হচ্ছে $100, she needs something, some basic stuff, she need it, she has to have it. Now husband দিচ্ছে না, so she can take from husbands, but it has to be $100 only. What do you mean? That's who said that? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Aisha radhiyallahu anha said, Hind bin Utbah, the wife of Abu Sufyan, entered upon the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "O Messenger of Allah, Abu Sufyan is a stingy man and who does not spend enough on me and my children, except for what I take from his wealth without his knowledge." তো সে বলতেছে যে, ইয়া রাসূলুল্লাহ, আবু সুফিয়ান আমার কিপটা মানুষ, সে আমাদের জন্য পয়সা দেয় না, তো আমার যা দরকার আমার বাচ্চাদের জন্য আমি তার কাছ থেকে নিয়ে নিই জোর করে। So am I wrong? So he's asking from Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, take from his wealth on a reasonable basis, and only what is sufficient for you and for your children. So you can take only what is sufficient for you and for your children. Well, that doesn't mean our sisters go home and back to house and take whatever in your husband's pocket. No, this will be stealing. If he doesn't pay for you, then you take whatever you need. That's it. You don't go more than that and take whatever he has and send it back home to your family. No, it's not allowed. Now there is a fine line in Islamic laws. Behind this line, you are good. Everything is halal. Beyond this line, everything is become haram. So be very careful. Prophet Muhammad gave you permission that you can take whatever you need. If your husband is stingy and he doesn't pay, but that doesn't give you permission to take whatever he has, everything, and then you can do it all the time. No, it's not allowed. That's not what Prophet ﷺ said. So be careful. Make sure you know the line. You know the demarcation. Jabir narrated that Muhammad ﷺ said in his farewell sermon, the Hajjat al-Quda, he said, "Fear Allah concerning women. Verily you have taken them on a security of Allah, and intercourse with them has been made lawful unto you by words of Allah. You too have rights over them, and they should not allow anyone to sit on your bed." See, these are the conditions. Muhammad ﷺ is advising men that be gentle with your wife, do whatever halal with them, but in return, they have to respect you. They should not share your bed with anyone else. They should not talk to anyone without your permission. They should not go outside without your permission. So that goes both ways. Husband has to respect you. Husband has to love you. Then you have to love him back too. You have to respect him too. You have to be obedient to him too. Number 3, financial rights, accommodation. This is also one of the wife's rights, which means that her husband should prepare for her accommodation according to his means and ability. Again, according to his means and ability. Now, he is not a rich man and you expect him to keep you in a mansion. It's not reasonable. It goes according to his ability. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in the Quran in a reasonable manner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Askinuhunna min haythu sakantum min ujudikum min ujdikum." তোমরা তোমাদের সামর্থ্য অনুযায়ী যে স্থানে বাস করো তাদেরকে সেই স্থানে বাস করতে দিও। So there is the limit mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. তোমরা তাদেরকে ওই স্থানে বাস করতে দিও যেখানে তোমরা বসবাস করো। So that means it's according to your husband's ability. But that doesn't mean husband is a rich guy and he wants to keep his wife in a very poor house. No, it goes according to reasonability. That's why our sisters has to be very careful. You can't push your husband for more and more and more and more and then make him fall into the haram income. And that's what happens so many times. Because of wives pushing and pushing and pushing, husband has to income more and then he fell into haram income. Doesn't it happen? So many people earn haram because he has to meet his wife's requirement. That should not be the case. Don't be the cause for your husband to go to Jahannam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning, lodge them when you dwell according to your means. According to your means. It's again the reasonable manner. What are the non-financial rights? The fair treatments between the co-wives. We don't have, most of us doesn't have co-wives, but if we do, Islam in what? Fair in love, fair in respect, fair in accommodation, fair in food, fair in clothing. You have to give all of them the same rights. One of the rights that a wife has over her husband is that she and her co-wife should be treated equally. If the husband has other wives, with regard to nights spent with them, spending and clothing, everything. The nights he's spending, the clothing, the food, the accommodation, everything has to be equal. That's wife's rights over husband. And the kind treatment, non-financial rights, one of them is kind treatment. The husband must have a good attitude towards his wife and be kind to her and offer her everything that may soften her heart towards him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, and live with them honorably. We have to respect them. And because we don't respect our wives, so many divorces happen because of that thing. Because you don't respect your wife. You treat your wife as a slave. No, that's not the case. She is your life partner. She is a partner in life. She left her family. She left her father, mother, her brother, sister, everyone for you. If you two disagree on something, you have your family with you at least to lean on. She doesn't have anyone. Right? So rights of husbands over wife is not more than the rights of wife over her husband. Rather, this is more important than husband's right over his wife, because she left everything for you. She came to your house, you are the only person she can lean on to. She has no father, mother with her, no brother, sister, nobody with her. Right? So her rights is more important than your rights over her. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding so that we can treat our wife accordingly, according to Quran and Sunnah. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'd. How Prophet ﷺ was treating how he was treating his wives. If we go through the seerah, if we go through the life of Prophet ﷺ, we'll see how he respected his wives, how he loved his wife, how he gave them confidence. We have lessons for us in the life of Prophet ﷺ. What happened once, Zainab bint Abi Salama narrated that Salama said, I got my menses once when I was lying with the Prophet ﷺ under one single blanket. So I got up and I left him because she thought she became dirty. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said to me, have you got your menses? And then she said yes. And then he called me and made me lie with him under the same sheet again. That's the love. We'll do maybe, we'll feel, no, okay, later, you go away. No, that's not what Prophet ﷺ did. He loved and he showed us how to love. Why this private things is in the book of Hadith? So that we can learn lessons for us, how to treat our wives. Urwa ibn al-Zubair said, Aisha said, by Allah, I saw the Messenger of Allah standing at the door of my apartment when the Abyssinians were playing with the spears of the mosque. The long story short, the time doesn't permit us. Aisha wanted to sow the show on the Eid day, and he ﷺ was standing in front of her, and she was leaning on Prophet ﷺ, and she thought it was the way she was leaning, he was hurting on leaning on his shoulder, and he was hurting. But he didn't say oof for once until she was happy. So that's love here. Prophet ﷺ was having running competition with his wife Aisha anha multiple times to make her happy. This is the love, affection, respect. We have to follow Prophet ﷺ's example. We have to follow Prophet ﷺ in our life. We have to respect our wives as Prophet ﷺ taught us. We have to love our wife as he ﷺ showed us. And the last but not the least, the time doesn't permit us. We have so much more to say. Not harming one's wife. You cannot harm your wife. You cannot hurt your wife physically, mentally, emotionally. Be very careful about that. আমরা আমাদের স্ত্রীদেরকে রেসপেক্ট করতে হবে, সম্মান করতে হবে, ভালোবাসতে হবে, তাদের যা প্রয়োজন তাদেরকে দিতে হবে. Because they are here with us, leaving everyone behind. And if you be just with her, inshallah, in the day of Qiyamah, when you go to Jannah, she'll be your wife again. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding of this deen and religion. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the good people of Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our wife in Jannah also. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. رب زدني علما. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين واحمي حوزة الإسلام يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر دينك وكتابك وسنة نبيك وعبادك الموحدين. اللهم أنت انصر الإسلام وأحيه في كل مكان. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. ولذكر الله الأكبر وأقيموا الصلاة.